Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review I'm very happy to be showing you the new Marvel Legends Wolverine figure, which is a character you'd think we'd have a whole bunch of good ones by now, and it's odd, but we really don't. We've struggled with Wolverine for a pretty long time. We've recently gotten some decent figures, but they weren't quite where we wanted them, and now we finally have one which I'm hoping by the end of this review we can call the best. The best one we've wanted. Best one we've gotten, the thing we wanted. Hopefully this is it. So let's go ahead and get this guy off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 14.5 centimeters to the top of his head. Of course, that'll vary a little bit depending on how you have him posed. That's going to make him about 5 3/4 inches, which you might be thinking, hey, that's a little bit short. And it is, and it's supposed to be. That's what Wolverine should be. That's awesome. I love that we have a nice short Wolverine. It's mostly the same figure that we have seen recently in this release. There are some new features, new pieces, which I think is a very good thing. We'll do some size comparison at the end, just so you can see what he might look like up against a particular other character. But for now, let's take a look at the two Wolverines. So this is the first release of this new Wolverine, which was supposed to be the Wolverine to end all Wolverines. And then after that, not too long, we got this guy right here, which is the vintage version. Same exact figure other than paint and obviously alternate parts. But that's what we got. Okay, and then just for a quick comparison, this is what we had for the Tiger Stripe Wolverine out of a Marvel Legends line. That's this one, which is still, I mean, it's not the best figure in the world, but you know, it's okay, I guess. Other than the lemon yellow and then the pink skin, and he's very okay. There's a lot of things wrong with it. Anyway, there's a quick comparison. There have been lots of Wolverines that are okay, but as far as the ones that were considered the best, these are them. Now, this Wolverine does feature, obviously, brand new shoulder pads. That's a great thing. And then brand new arms all the way up from the shoulder down to the wrist. The hands are the old hands. These arms are very nice compared to these arms. If you remember correctly, when I reviewed this figure, I said how weird his upper arms looked. They looked like a bunch of like water balloons or something. I don't know if I said that, but it looked like a pack of sausages tied around his arm. It's just very strange. And so now we have a much more organic looking sculpt. So that is awesome. I'm so glad that they changed that. Very nicely done. We do have sculpted hair. It's not painted, but we do have texture on there for the hair. The shoulder is new, kind of hard to see, but that looks pretty good. The torso is the same torso, but you'll remember I said how big this neck was, and the head sat too high and it looks weird. And then when I made my custom heads, I sat it lower and everything was good. Well, that's what they've done here. They've sat the head properly on the body, and it is so much better. So much better. This is such a marked improvement over those previous Wolverine figures, and it's the Tiger Stripe Wolverine. You can't beat that. It's very, very well done overall. Before we get into anything else, though, let's talk accessories. We have some interchangeable fist hands. So these claws do come off on the claw hands if you want them to, so that's for various posing purposes. But if you want to take the claws out completely, you do have just the plain old fist hands. Yes, these claws are still rather questionable. They don't peg in particularly well. It's very difficult to get them to line up the way you want them to, so it's not the best situation, but it'll do. You can easily make your own. A lot of people like to go for the metal for the authenticity. However, that can be problematic, so I personally recommend polystyrene, which you can paint or marker to be a very nice silver, and they're easily replaced if they happen to break, but they tend to not bend or break, which is why I like that material instead, and it's easy to work with for just about anybody. Anywho, it's a really, really solid figure, guys. Very pleased with it. As far as the paint goes, there's no shading on it, which is a bummer. Shading's always a nice thing, but what paint is there is relatively well done. The line work for the stripes is pretty clean. You do get a few bits of yellow peeking through where it's kind of recessed in between the muscles, but it's not too bad. The lines up here are pretty well done, so that's okay. They painted the gloves on the arms, which is a good thing. That means they molded in the skin tone. Well done, Hasbro. Paint job's a little fuzzy around the edges, but it's okay. Paint job for the boots is very clean. Otherwise, everything's pretty much molded in its color, so that's nice. Not sure why there's a black stripe there. Shouldn't the yellow continue all the way down the head? I thought it did. That's a little weird that they put a stripe there. Cool thing about this head, it's kind of cool and kind of a problem. The whole face and ears are a separate piece. Now you might be looking at it thinking that's a really weird profile. It's not really the profile. Weird silhouette for Wolverine's cowl. And you're right, it's pretty weird, and you can kind of force these out and it kind of tricks it into looking better. But they don't want to stay out because they're molded this way. You can heat them and kind of flex them and they'll stay probably a little bit better. but they are a separate piece. So what you may have to do is actually wedge something in there to pop these out a little bit, because it is a separate piece glued onto the yellow. So that would be okay. If you are one of the people lucky enough to have purchased one of my custom Wolverine heads, they do, since this is the same body, fit. I did, just in case you're curious and want to see what it looks like, I had a spare one, and I just kind of threw some paint on there to kind of make it match the right color so you can see. It does pop on, and it gives you a little bit more of that classic Wolverine look if you want that. I'm not selling these anymore, but if you happen to have one, you can take the one that was on this Wolverine and it'll swap. You just might have to change the yellow. That's just a little aside. But this head's not bad. It has a little bit of that really square face that they've been doing. It's okay. It's got a little bit of a MODOK look to it, but it's not terrible. Something worth noting is that the eyes are actually part of the head back here, so there's yellow plastic that's poking through for the actual eyes themselves, and they've painted them silver. But there's still yellow peeking through, and I've seen some people report that they're not getting the paint on there, so they're just yellow eyes, which is a little bit weird. But otherwise, the paint job's okay for the mouth, so that's all right. Now, as far as articulation goes, we already kind of know how this is going to play out, but there are some things that are really worth noting, so I'm happy to show you. The head does lean back pretty well. Since it sits lower, it doesn't lean back as far as this one, but this one looked goofy as hell, and everybody said, no, you're wrong, it looks fine. Well, no, this looks fine, this looks goofy. Anyway, this doesn't lean back as far, but it's enough. He can definitely look up, that's okay. He can look down, no problem. The head is seated nicely on the neck. There are no huge gaps. Is there any lean? Not so much, really. The rotation's fine, though. Now, for the shoulders, we do have that really awesome butterfly joint, which we had before. It is, of course, limited a little bit by these shoulder pads, but that's okay, because the shoulder pads are connected to the shoulder, which is the absolute best way to make a shoulder pad. Now, when you want to raise his arm, the shoulder pad doesn't get in the way, and the shoulder pad stays with the arm, and that's very, very nice. It's great for posing. It's much more aesthetically pleasing, and you can still work the arms. They don't go up quite as far. I think these guys had pretty good range. Let me check real quick. Yeah, you could force them. Maybe you can force these a little bit more. No, that's not going to go anywhere. So we do have a little bit of limitation going up horizontally to the side. I think that's something we can live with, because we do get those really nice shoulder pads that give us that classic Wolverine look, which, you know, they haven't really done effectively ever. This is the first time they've done that, so that's kind of awesome. We do have our bicep swivel. Now, the arms are still really bulky, so you might bump into the torso here, but that's okay. That's to be expected. Double jointed elbows. Again, pretty bulky, but still decent enough range. It's not great, but it'll do. The wrists obviously are swivels, and they had the hinge on them. That's nothing new. Ab crunch, standard ab crunch, a little bit going back, a lot going forward, so that's good. Waist twist is fine. Belt is a floaty belt, so it won't get in the way. Painted well, relatively well. The hips go out to the side, really, with no problem. That's not too bad. I think that'll probably be good enough for most people. All the way forward, no real issues. Just a little bit going back. Thigh swivel's fine. Double jointed knees are fine, so that's good. We do have a shin swivel here for the boot, and then bringing the foot forward. Not the best range, but it'll do, and then really good range going back, and a really solid ankle rocker. So yeah, this is just a really solid release, guys. They basically took a mold that I thought was like really good half the way, and the rest of it needed a little bit of work, and they did the things that I said needed the work, and now it's basically perfect. I'm not in love with the head sculpt, honestly. It'll do, but I mean, we've definitely seen better head sculpts out of Marvel Legends figures in the past. Not the ones I have here, because, I mean, if you're comparing to this, it's not great. They're both very blocky and kind of odd looking, but it'll do. And this one's not great either. I wish I had the X-Jet one, because that was such a great head sculpt, such a good one. But this one will do. It'll definitely get the job done. It's okay. So yeah, guys, this is easily, by far, not even close, the best Wolverine Marvel Legends figure ever, by far. You need to get one. If you're collecting Marvel Legends or X-Men figures or Wolverine figures, you need to get this. It's such a nice release. So yeah, definitely pick it up, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up almost every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And in the meantime, keep collecting.